Hello and welcome back to What I Think I Know with your host, Dan Brigantino. Don't go anywhere just yet. If you're stopping by because you saw a funny picture of a dude with a weird mustache and a wand and whatnot, if you're a regular listener, if it's your first time, second time, whatever, doesn't matter, leave a comment down below. Just think of the first subject that comes to your mind, comment it down below. This is supposed to be a show curated by you, the people. And so far, it's just mostly been me talking about the news, which I enjoy doing, and I think everybody should be aware of it all. But I'd like to at least add a segment at this point with some comments down below. So please let us know. And this week, it's good news, everybody. Google has lifted its ban on all the YouTubers that and just people using Google stuff in general. They lifted that ban on everybody, and I believe they're pulling back on the things that you can't say. They're going to allow you to say more things. They did confirm that the Biden administration made them do it. Not that they were opposed to it. They didn't say that they were opposed to it by any means, but they did say that the Biden administration was the one who was telling them to do it. And that's silencing Republican voices of all kinds, including the President of the United States. RFK Jr. was silenced. Kind of every big name Republican voice was silenced at one point, especially just around the 2020 era. I said, good news, everybody. It's really not good news. I mean, it's decent news, but it's about 5 years too late, if not more than that. This is a ridiculous thing that should have never happened in the first place. There were people making hundreds of thousands of dollars as YouTubers, and they were just shut down one day. Their entire income stream was shut down, and it could be very volatile for a family. So I feel terribly for all these people, and it's a real bummer. And I kind of think that YouTube should be. I don't know what should happen. Should it be a class action lawsuit, or should this be an even higher legal matter? The government silenced, or had an institution silence, Republican voices. So there's some scary stuff with that. That is an attack on the First Amendment, and that should be seen by all as a very, very scary thing. They're a big corporation. They can kind of do as they please. Well, they're private especially, so they can really do as they please. If it was just them silencing these Republicans, that's fine. No problem. You're a private organization. You do what you want. But because the Biden administration was telling them to do that, there needs to be much bigger repercussions. And there was millions of dollars lost by these people who used to be YouTubers, who are now on whatever, I don't know, Rumble or Truth Social or whatever it is, X. Those guys lost millions of dollars right there. That is true silencing. This whole Jimmy Kimmel thing, that's not silencing. He's still allowed to make a podcast if he wants. Well, in fact, as I'm recording this even, he's already been reinstated in his position. I have heard things that he's already getting shut down again. I have no idea about the truth behind all that. It's probably not true. Just wishful thinking or something. I don't know. I remember watching The Man Show as I growing up. It's something to waste time on. I mean, if you're really looking to waste it, it wasn't a great show, but it's kind of a good look back into how we used to be, essentially, what used to be okay. I don't understand how he made it through cancel culture. I think somebody would have looked back at that and said, "Oof, that's terrible." But nobody on his side of the aisle. I do remember plenty of Republicans saying, "Oh yeah, this is crazy. Why aren't you canceling this guy?" Um, but nobody on their side of the aisle, the actual cancelers, nobody looked into that, which is pretty funny. Because that really wasn't silencing. The FCC has very strict rules on what you can and cannot say. It was well known by everybody across the planet that this shooter was not MAGA, and he said the shooter was definitely MAGA. That's a blatant lie. The FCC has rules against that. He's done it before in the past, so yeah, he should have been shut down because the FCC has rules about that. On the other hand, like Tucker Carlson, he was showing video of January 6th that proved that it was not a violent insurrection. Really quick overview of the day. They were positioned at, I don't even know where they were. I can't remember, but it wasn't far from the Capitol building. But they were positioned where they were while Trump was basically learning whether or not he would be the president, whether or not we were going to have to do some more math on the vote or revote or whatever the situation was. The vice president at the time, Pence, was kind of the deciding person on that. He said his lawyers told him legally he can't say, "I disagree with the vote." He had to agree with it. Clearly, we can see with Google's admission that the government itself, Biden's government, was telling him or was telling people to ban conservative people. We can kind of infer from that that Tulsi Gabbard is correct about Barack Obama and the whole Russian intelligence and all that stuff, which I believe firmly is the reason Trump didn't win. All that was, election interference. 100%. There's no doubt in that. If you're telling all the public a lie about a person who's running for an office, and people tend to believe that because you're telling them it's factual, we have more than 50 FBI people who are saying so. That tends to be a bit of interference. That's like, let's say, a great example, a referee in a football game. We all love Patrick Mahomes, and we know the refs love him more than we do. Well, that's for sure. A lot more than we do. I don't know many people who love Mahomes. Not that he's a bad guy or whatever. I'm not a fan. I prefer other people on other teams. But the refs always seem to be on his side. And that is a bit of interference that leads to perhaps the winning of a Super Bowl. So it's we can all agree that's interference, lying about somebody, saying that it's truth when you know it's not. That's interfering in the system, and quite crazy as well. And it led to a lot of violent encounters and whatnot. The whole George Floyd situation occurred just shortly after all that, and truly, I want anybody who sees this, if you can think of one situation other than January 6th where we see political violence from Republicans. If anybody knows of a single situation, please leave it in the comments. I want to look into it. I want to go into depth. I'll do a whole episode on it. I really want to understand this because from what I can see, there's not much. So from what I see, we have in 2022, a Trump supporter shot his neighbor during a heated argument or after several heated arguments. It's a little bit of a confusing case. This Trump supporter, apparently he was a big Trump supporter. He used to go to a bar and it had Trump posters on the wall or something. That's the evidence for. Also, the victim's wife said he was a Trump supporter. So, I mean, we could say definitely that sounds like a Trump supporter to me. Um, there's some interesting stuff going on though, because apparently, I believe it was in 2017, he stabbed his father in the stomach, and never got charged with any crime, which is incredibly strange. It might not have even, and this is just me realizing this, it might not have actually come out. He might have stabbed his father, and his father stayed at home and healed and just kind of water under the bridge or something. I don't know what kind of person would allow that to happen with somebody in their own house. Um, but the love of a father is very strong. Um, so this whole scenario of this stabbing might have come out during the investigation period of the shooting. That's what I'm just kind of realizing. That's probably what happened, because otherwise he didn't get charged for that. And if he had, he would have had his guns taken away. He would have never committed this murder. I don't know if I could say that, so I'm going to bleep it. He never would have committed this thing. So that's a very interesting thing. That's where gun laws should be in existence. If you stab somebody for no reason, especially your father, you should be punished very severely. Now, it depends on the age, of course. If it's a toddler and he's just accidentally got his hands on a knife and accidentally stabs his dad, then no, of course we're not going to charge that. That'd be ridiculous. But from my understanding, 2017, he was 21 or 24 when he committed the shooting. So, yeah, I mean, he would have been at least 15, 16, which I think is old enough to punish for a stabbing. Unless, of course, it is actually accidental. Maybe he drops a knife, or maybe he trips and falls. And there's many scenarios, so I don't have enough information on that one. But anyway, so we have, in total, of all right-wing political violence, we have 2022, the supporter shoots his neighbor. Now, I will preface that again with, we're not entirely sure if this was because the victim was a Democrat. There's no actual substantial evidence to say that that was the cause or reason behind the shooting. From what I've seen, I've dug into it pretty deeply, but maybe I'm missing something. So if I'm missing something, please comment down below. But anyway, essentially we have Trump supporter who has argued with neighbor about politics before, shoots neighbor. Incredibly sad for the neighbor. It's a horrible situation, and the wife, I believe, was watching this happen, which is absolutely horrible. I think this fella should get the death penalty, probably. I don't know all the circumstances here, so maybe I'm wrong on that. But I kind of think anybody in cold-blooded murder, you don't deserve much better than death penalty. And as a Christian, that's even it's kind of a controversial thing, perhaps, to say, because I forgive everybody and love everybody. But I also understand that some people cannot coexist with the rest of us. And we have two options. We have set them in a steel barred windowed box for the 60 years they have left to live, or do we end that life now and send them to the true judge? It's a very difficult thing to think about, let alone talk about. So I understand any naysayers to that. I totally understand where you might be coming from. So 2022, that happened. Then we have January 6th, 2021. Of course, we all know what happened then. A bunch of people were hanging out at the place the president was supposed to figure out whether or not he was going to be the next president or not. They had an event planned already at the Capitol building, so we told everybody go walk over there. We'll hold the event there. There were 26 FBI people in plain clothes at that event who then started moving barriers and telling people to go inside. They went inside. Ashley Babbitt was, I don't know how to describe that, but she was murdered by what I presume to be a negligent discharge from an officer. Otherwise, nobody else was hurt. I still don't understand the stories about police being attacked. I've never heard any concrete information about that. Maybe I haven't looked too deeply into that side, but it doesn't really matter too much because the George Floyd riots were going on at that time, and there were people getting killed left and right. I think there were at least like 50 people who were killed during those riots. So one or two cops getting punched a couple times. There was a police officer who passed away the day after. That was natural causes, totally unrelated from the event. So we have that. And then we talked about this last week, the Charlottesville white supremacist. I'm air quoting because I don't have any idea what his affiliation is with any white supremacy group. I don't know, is this just the internet saying whatever group he was a part of was a white supremacist group? I don't really know. If he was a white supremacist or not, I absolutely condemn every part of what he did. You should never drive your car into a crowd. Death penalty again. I don't want my taxes going to this fella just spending the rest of his life in prison. He clearly tried to kill a group of people. He didn't just try to kill the one person he did end up killing. He tried to kill the whole group of people. So get rid of him. Again, all these things. I mean, so other than this, the only thing I could find, other than these three occasions, the only other thing I could find is something about the Tea Party. Maybe there were some fights during the whole Tea Party rising thing. And then it took me all the way back to the 70s. So we have three incidences of violent crime from Republicans, violent political crime from Republicans in the last 15 years or so. On the other hand, in just the last 14 days, what day is it today? It's the 24th as I'm recording this, so this is the 2-week mark since Charlie Kirk's assassination. You'll see this on Friday, if not much later than that. There aren't a whole bunch of viewers. Come on, watch the show. It's a good one. And leave a comment down below. It'll be curated just to you. If you are the one person watching, this is your show dedicated to you. This is your opportunity. Put a comment down below. We'll have some fun. But anywho, it'll be about 16 days since Charlie Kirk's assassination that you'll be watching this video. And since then, we have had a fella shoot at I think it was ABC or NBC. It was the building. They shot at the building because they fired Jimmy Kimmel. That was left-wing crime. We have a fella yelling "Free Palestine" as he shot up a wedding. We have I think, what was it, today or yesterday, that somebody was shooting at an ICE facility. I believe it was with a longer range, higher caliber rifle, a sniper, if you will. And I want to say he killed at least one people, if not several, and many were injured. That's the last 16 days. I can go only like 4 or 5 days more, so 21 days, and we add in I think her name was Irina. I feel bad for not knowing this off the top of my head, but the Ukrainian girl on the train who tragically lost her life to a deranged man. who clearly did this based on race. So that's 5 things in the last 21 days. Violent, murderous actions. Um, Only one of them, only the shooting at the ABC building, did not result in loss of life. There was one man shot and killed at the wedding. Of course, we know Charlie Kirk lost his life, and the young Ukrainian girl. At the wedding, there was a man who jumped in front of his family to shield them. He was shot in the head and passed. I would assume instantly. And then again, the ice facility. At least one person lost their life there, if not several. There are probably several people in the hospital right now. This is all just so ridiculous and unbelievable. If the script was flipped, if this was right wing people who assassinated a predominant name, perhaps what, like Kamala Harris or AOC or whatever, whoever, I don't even know who the big names are on that side of the aisle. I really don't care. You see their stuff all over the internet, and it's all foolish. So I disregard most of it. Well, I listen to it all, but I don't pay too much attention to who's doing what and whatnot. It's pretty much the whole group. So just imagine whoever the most prominent voice on the Democrat side is. Imagine that person gets assassinated, and then by a right-wing MAGA person, and then a totally unrelated right-wing MAGA person goes and shoots up Fox News because they fired Tucker Carlson. And then 2 days later, it was less than 24 hours later, somebody goes to a gay wedding, whatever you might call that, a ceremony of legal bondmanship, and shoots and kills somebody there. And then a couple days later, somebody, what's the equivalent of an ICE facility? Somebody goes and shoots a abortion clinic. Okay, if these 4 things were all perpetrated by a MAGA Republican or several MAGA Republicans, as what happened, there were 4 separate occasions, 4 separate violent occurrences, 4 separate perpetrators. If these 4 perpetrators were MAGA, it would have ended the same way 2020 ended. It would have been a full stage. That was weird. It would have been a lockdown across the country. They would have been sending officers to our houses and confiscating guns and things like that. Very much like around COVID time when they were going to churches and spying on families and people related to the churches. We had anybody who didn't wear a vax was going to get fined or fired from their. Wear a mask was going to get fined or fired or whatever. If you didn't get a vax, you would get fined or fired or whatever. I am unfortunately one of those people who had to take a shot for my job. It was incredibly unfortunate. In fact, you can actually find me in the Vogue magazine. If you look for I think it's Ivy Getty. The Getty family is a big billionaire family. Ivy Getty wedding pictures. There should be a picture. They're sitting in a 54 Bel Air convertible drop top. They're either in it or they're in front of it, and I'm actually behind it. I was the driver. So you can look that up. I had to. They required it for me to drive them around in a convertible, no less. So they are very well aware of how to force people to do things. COVID was their test run, in fact. Had they won the last election, had Kamala become our next president, we probably already would have gone through all this stuff. It's terrifying. The groups who steal the guns always have bad intentions. So anyway, that's just something to think about. And you know, I was listening to, what was I listening? Well, it was Chad Daniels. I think it was on Pandora. And yes, I still use Pandora. I understand most people don't anymore. I'm probably the only one keeping that app alive. But I like it. I don't know what's wrong with it. Maybe I'm just not smart enough to use the Spotify or whatever else there is. But anyway, so I was listening to him on Pandora, I think, and one of his old acts came up, and that's not right because I don't remember it like I would have if it was recent. So maybe I was listening to something else he did, and this thought came into my head. But it was about projection, and I can't remember the whole thing, his whole bit on this, but it was like you go into a coffee shop and you're wearing a shirt that says love the children, and somebody goes, what are you, a pedophile? And you go, what do you mean? This is a non-profit helping children. Well, yeah, you're an adult and you like children. You must be a pedophile. Well, that sounds like you're projecting your pedophilia onto me. You must think that about yourself. Um, so that is where this next thought comes from. Republicans see guns as a tool for the most part. It's a tool used in hunting, self-defense, um, uh, protection of others, I guess, whatever that is, external defense. And of course, one of the most important things, and something that everybody forgets about, um, fighting tyranny. And the reason for that is because, as a Republican who, loves guns and whatnot, that's what I use them for. That's what everybody I know who has them uses them for. But it's clear as day in all this stuff that I've brought up just this last 2 weeks. Granted, one of them was a knife thing, with our young Ukrainian gal on the train. But the rest of them were shootings, and there's been plenty of more shootings in the past perpetrated by liberal Democrats, just like the guy possibly hired by Tim Walz, who went out and shot those two lawmakers. There's hundreds of thousands of examples just in the last couple of years alone. Maybe not hundreds of thousands, but thousands of examples just in the last couple of years. Democrats clearly believe that guns are used solely for crime and violence because that's all they use them for. That's the only reason Democrats have for having a gun. Like I said, on the contrary, for Republicans, it is hunting and sport shooting, self-defense, the defense of others, fighting tyranny. That is why there has only been one shooting by a politically motivated shooting by a Republican in the last, it looks like, at least 15 years. The next one back I could find was perhaps like 2012. So around about 10, 15 years. That's a very big difference, and should highlight the difference between the two cultures. This is why, especially after Charlie Kirk, there is no symbiosis. There is no coming together of the left and right. You can join the right if you like, but we're at war with the left, unfortunately. We don't want this. We did not call for this. The left called for this. The left has been calling for this for years and years. Like I asked earlier, or maybe I didn't, maybe I forgot to ask this, but if there is anything that you, the viewer, know of that a Republican has perpetrated An actual event, though, and I'm bringing it down to even like calls for violence kind of thing. Hey, my constituents, if you see the other team, draw a crowd, bring the people in, don't make them aware that they are not welcome here. We just had a mayor in Minnesota, probably. I think maybe I talked about this last week, that said there was a dude, let's call him Tom. It was either like Tom or John. I can't remember his name. But let's call him Tom. Tom said, "Hey, I'm uncomfortable with you guys renaming the street name or the streets after Hezbollah leaders, because Hezbollah is a terrorist group and they killed many Americans. I'm uncomfortable with that." And the mayor of the city, Momar Mohammed Gaddafi Jim John Jr., not Jim John, that was definitely not part of his name. But anyway, this Muslim mayor says, essentially, that offends me. You are not welcome in this town, and when you move out, we'll throw a parade. Excuse me? You're an immigrant talking to an American citizen in an American city. That lights my fire right there. Again, I'm not calling for violence against this person by any means. I am calling for a Republican awakening, and please, Republicans, let's take this to the ballot box. We need to show the left that they are no longer in charge. And the only correct way to do that is through the ballot box. For Californians, that comes in November. We have the special election for Prop 50 coming up. This will be Democrats seizing control of the state and leaving Republicans entirely voiceless. 4 representatives as opposed to, I believe, 50. Was it 54 or 52 total representatives? I can't remember. So the Democrats will either have 48 or 50 representatives, and Republicans will have 4 in a state that voted 40% Republican. Seems like that should be split differently, but it will be split that way if we vote yes on Prop 50, so vote no on Prop 50. Anyway, if you guys have any examples of right-wing violence other than, yeah, they're all Nazis or whatever. I actually saw somebody, I can't remember who it was, but I saw somebody on Instagram, I think, who said basically, we should act like the African Americans who took control of the N-word by using it on each other. Now, I certainly don't condone going around town calling your buddies Nazis. That's probably not going to end well, because nobody's going to understand what you're actually talking about. But I think it's a really funny concept. I suggest you just kind of, just a mental fun game. Think about that, because, yeah, Nazi is kind of our N-word at this point. We've been all called Nazis forever. I actually, my biggest video has 30 views. I've gotten death threats already. I just started. This is the 16th episode, I think. I started on the internet 16 weeks ago, and I'm already getting death threats. That in itself is just ridiculous. But anyway, I think I have kind of covered everything that needs to be covered this week. If you didn't understand something, or if I didn't actually get to the point on something, please let me know, and I'll finish that point on the next episode. Again, I'm always trying to find time to do multiple episodes. We will get there someday. If you have seen more than one episode and all the way through, thank you. You are the MVP. If not, still, thank you very much. Not as big of applause, but thank you. Please leave a comment down below. Just the first thing that comes to your head, a subject that you enjoy, a hobby perhaps, anything you like. My kind of background is incredibly broad. I had my start in cabinet making in high school. I was a triathlete at 9-10 years old or something, maybe even before that. I don't remember. And I've been a teacher. I've been a construction worker of all different sorts. I'm broad, and I love so many more things than I've even done. There's things that I just dream about doing that I know a lot about and whatnot. Anyway, I'm drowning on, drawn in. What's the word there I'm looking for? Droning. There we go. I'm droning on. Um, but anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Those all help get a little more visibility to the channel. And comment down below gives a little bit of visibility, but also that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about what interests you. So, without further ado, thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. God bless you all, and have a great week.